If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement, Male Advantage ebook, or my personal workout and diet plan, all links are in the bio. Okay guys, welcome back to another video. Really excited to make this video actually. It's kind of like a part 2 of the one that I made just a couple of days ago. If you haven't watched that one yet, I recommend you go and watch that one first before watching this one, just to avoid comment confusion. But the reason I have to make this video is from some fantastic comments from you guys talking about what does it look like on the female side? Is it the same for women? Are women also on average like 3s out of 10? And I've got so much to cover in this video, so much to talk about. It's not often I get this excited about a video, but I think, again, like the last video, I can see by the views how much you guys liked it. But I think it's going to be another game-changing video that will allow you to comprehend the male-female dynamic, especially in the modern world. And one of the best questions I got asked was, with the average man being like a 3... around about like a 2 to a 4, and roughly obviously with the average being like a 3, what does that mean in terms of like attracting women? If women are higher, surely we're in like in for a shit show over the next 10 years, 20 years. I was like, yeah, now you're thinking like me. Now you're looking ahead to the future and realizing that a very small handful of men are going to have good lives, and hence why the incel population is growing so crazily. Now, just to cover something very quickly, because I did get a few comments about this, and I don't want to argue with people in the comments. I'm quite a confrontational guy, I'm quite an aggressive guy, and the thing is, I actually like those sort of discussions. When you go back and forth with people and whatever, but you can disagree with me, more than happy to do that. Like, what would this channel be without disagreements? But when it's like a waste of time, where I have to address something and explain something that doesn't need explaining, and it's taken away from time talking to someone else who needs the help, it's like, it's kind of getting annoying now. And just to clear something up, right? So I've got my Epic pen over here. This is called Epic Pen, okay? People always ask, what's that software? So it's Epic Pen. I think it's free. There's updates you can do, you can pay for it, but I think it's free. But let's say if we had 49, we'll get onto the female thing in a minute, I just need to go through this. Okay, let's say 48 data points. Jesus, that looks terrible, doesn't it? Let's say there's one here and one there. Okay, the average is going to fall right bang in the middle because we've got even numbers. It's at 50, it's going to be in between the two 25s. That's very simple. If I were to then add a second one onto here, so let's just turn that into a 2. Jesus, I'm bad at this. Where would this fall? Well, it wouldn't fall bang on center now, would it? It would now move very, very slightly to the right. It would be closer to this side. And the argument that I was kind of having with people, it wasn't really an argument, it was just kind of, you know, discussing averages and modes and means and whatever. Well, my kind of discussion was that wherever the mode is, the data is more likely to be dragged in that direction. So because that's a 2 and that's a 1, the data is more likely to be dragged in that direction. Now, it will still sit pretty much in the middle of here because it's only 1 extra compared to that. But if we were to then go back and we were to change this to like 20, well, then you're very likely to see something that's going to fall about here in terms of where the average would be. Now, it's very easy to add up. You just add up this number, this number, this number, where the data points are, sorry, and then you divide it by how many there are. And you would get, you know, probably I would suggest something roughly around about that area. And that is how I came up with that number. Okay, so now that we've cleared that up, we can move on to the female graph. But it's important to see this one first, because although I say everybody's going to go and watch the first episode, they probably won't, which, you know, is understandable, guys. My videos are really fucking long. I appreciate every view, to be honest. And also, don't get too excited. If you're on a no-fap journey, maybe just listen to the audio on this, because there's some really good-looking women that I'm about to show you. Okay, but here's the female graph. And one thing that you'll notice straight away is the difference. And to be honest, it's probably better if I just fly straight in and show you the two together. It's probably a lot easier. It's, you know, it might be a distraction, but it's probably a lot easier for me so I can jump between the two. But here's the female one down the bottom, okay? the first thing you're going to recognize is the difference in these percentages here. So first and foremost, we've got the male kind of target there. It's roughly a 3. I've obviously said it's like a 3.2, 3.3. Don't buy too much into that. Like they're not level, that's what I'm saying. But it's like I did these quickly and roughly, but it still explains the concept. But then you'll see, to answer the kid's question on the channel yesterday, are women on average the same as men? No, they're not. On average, they're roughly like a 5 or a 6. I've put them within this bracket. Like a 5 to a 7 is probably the most common looking woman on the planet. I've heard Travel Bum say this. I've heard Dan Bilzerian say this as well. I say this, that wherever you go on the planet, the average woman will be roughly around about this bracket. It doesn't matter where you go. Obviously, some countries are higher than others, but you're going to have women that are within this range, okay? It's very common. And obviously, the middle bracket on this is a 6, so I've put women on average at like a 6. Well, straight away, guys, we can see a major dilemma. If the average guy is roughly a 3, 3.2, 3.3, whatever, and the average woman is a 6, well, straight away we have a massive problem. Women date on their level or women date up. So the average woman is not looking at the average man. So we get a percentages differential. And now secondly, we have to understand about women. I think most of you guys probably know this by now from just personal life experience. If a woman is a 6, and I'll explain something in a minute about simps. Fuck it, I'll do it now. It probably makes more sense to do it now, and then I'll come back. If a woman is like a 5 or a 6, what she is, and I determine, is she is the queen of the general public bracket. That was quite straight, wasn't it, guys? I'm doing all this freehand. That's pretty fucking good. I thought we'd be all over the place. So she's the queen of this bracket. Okay, so she's a 5. She's the queen of this lower 40%. This is what I call the general public. And it's the same thing over here for men. Like if most men are a 2 to a 4, the general public bracket is about here for men. These are the men, I explained yesterday, the men that are like 5s and 6, whatever, and like pushing up from a 4, should I say. So within that whole bracket there, most of those guys are guys that have said, do you know what, I want a little bit more money than normal. Do you know what, I want a slightly above average body. Do you know what, Chris, that submental stuff that you've been talking about, facial exercises, orthotropics, whatever, low body fat, yeah, I'm going to go for it. I might not go through a body transformation, I'm just going to cut my body fat down to around about 11-10. I'm going to bring out my genetic potential, I'm going to do orthotropics, slightly higher cheekbones, wider jawline. Okay, I'm above average in looks now. That's those guys. That's that 20%. They've just improved in one area. This is usually multiple areas at once or excelling to an elite level in a single area, which is something else I'll explain in a second as well. I just don't want to go off down 3 rabbit holes like fucking Inception, a dream within a dream within a dream. So what we've got here is this bracket of men that are still within the general public bracket. And like I said earlier, women date up. So if a woman is here or on their level, so if a woman is here or here, and she's kind of, you know, let's take the 6 out of the bracket for now. Let's say a woman is roughly here. She's the queen of the general public. Well, if a guy is a 6, he's the king of the general public. But what we have here is a major percentages differential. We have 95% for the men, okay? And we have 40% for the women. So these 95% of men are trying to get with these 40% of women. Because like I said, women either date up or on their level. So this 5 going to be able to date a 6 man and everything underneath. Now let's clear all this out. And this is why OnlyFans is so successful, right? Most girls on OnlyFans making a ton of money is not usually these girls. It's not usually. Because I have a theory, right? I've thought this for a long, long time. If you are the queen of the general public bracket, all of these girls and below, you're like a 5 or at push maybe a 6, and you are what I call within reach for all of these men. So these men down here, if you're like a guy who's a 3 or the average guy on the planet, you're going to look at a 10 and be like, she's ridiculous, but I can never get her. You're going to look at a 5 and be like, she's within reach. She is a plausibility. And the thing is, most guys who are, you know, like I said, below 6, but these guys have improved somewhat. These guys here, 6 and 5, they're dating the majority of these girls, and this is what guys call players and whatever. Oh, these guys are doing so well in life. You know, they're snapping up these girls. oh, this guy gets so many girls. They don't. It's just, there's a very small, like, these girls aren't going to get these guys, so they have to go into this bracket because they just don't want these, and they'll never even pay attention to these. But what happens is, if you look at this bracket here, 4 and below, which is the average guy, you've got 75% of men on planet Earth, and this girl is the queen of the general public. Well, this is where you get simps. All of these simps that are like 0 to 4, they absolutely adore these girls because everybody knows a girl that looks like that. Everybody knows a girl that looks like that, but this girl is slightly hotter. Every guy knows a girl that looks like this that they work with. It's plausible that your ex looked like that, but she was slightly hotter. She left you when she got slightly hotter. It's plausible that you work with a girl that looks like this. It's plausible that the girl that is working behind the shop that you're about to go and get food from looks like this. So what happens is it becomes a fantasy for a lot of these guys, and that's why that 75% are funding these girls. Like Emma Watson, who's on my list in a minute. I'll show you some pictures, it will make sense. Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. She is lusted over. Like, guys talk about her like she's the hottest woman in the world. She's a lot of guys' fantasies. In my opinion, and when I break down the scale, it will make sense, like it did yesterday when I said that guy was a 6 and it seemed confusing. But then when guys actually saw the full scale, they went, okay, yeah, compared to Jeremy Meeks, that guy looks like a bum. And then it all came together, it made sense, and it becomes quite humbling, which is the point I was trying to make. I'm not trying to dent anybody's confidence. But in my opinion, Emma Watson is like a 5. But for a lot of guys, she's considered a 10. And when I say a lot of guys, it's these guys. It's 75% of the world's population see Emma Watson as a 10 because they're so low down on the scale that these are the girls that they're seeing every day. 5s and like the occasional 6, and it blows their mind. Okay, because that's what they're surrounded by. This is the majority of the general public. These are the girls with normal jobs. These are the girls that they're bumping into. Maybe half of these from 6 and below. These are the girls that they work with. These are the girls they went to school with. Like, this is what they're seeing all the time. So this is why these two types of girls always do really well in like Hollywood, in the music industry. Like a Taylor Swift is probably like a 5 or something like that. Just without makeup, probably like a 4. But she's probably around that bracket. Like a Selena Gomez is probably like a 5 if you actually have a decent scale. And you guys will see in a minute when I break it down that there's levels to this game as before. If you think Selena Gomez is higher than a 5, then or Taylor Swift or Hermione Granger, Emma Watson, you might need to go and reassess your scale. And I don't say that to be a dick, but it's going to change your life because then you're going to dream bigger. And like somebody said yesterday about Dan Pena was talking about how he thought he was making a lot of money before. It was like a Dan Pena quote. I'm glad the guy posted the quote. I screenshotted it because I love this shit. But he was talking about how he thought he was making a lot of money. But then when he saw real money, like proper billionaires, back when, back when a billion was actually a billion, like now with inflation, it's a little bit different. But back then it was a shit ton of money. And he said he realized he was making a lot of money for like Hispanics. It might be like slightly considered racist, but obviously with a surname like Pena, I would assume he's got a Spanish background. Maybe he's allowed to say it, okay? So, but it made a lot of sense. And if you're down here on the scale, you're the average guy, you're a 3, and you're looking at these girls, and you originally thought they were 10s, address your scale, because, like I said, there's levels to this game, it goes up here. Now, one thing I want to address quickly is I did say yesterday that if you're a billionaire, you're a 10 on the scale. And if you're making 100,000 a year, well, let's say a couple million, you're a 7, right? And a lot of guys were like, yeah, but past a certain point, money doesn't mean anything. And I'm like, yeah, no, guys, look, I agree, okay? And I'll explain that in just a second. But one thing you have to appreciate is yesterday when I was describing that scale, or when I ever do a scale like that in general, if I'm evaluating just wealth as a singularity, I've got to say billionaire, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, singular millions. There's no other way to do that on that scale. It's just not possible to do that scale just on monetary terms without putting the billionaire at the 10 and the millionaire at the 7. Now, in a life sense, if we were going to do an accumulation effect, if we were going to add up body, face, money, personality, life setup, etc., clothing, whatever. Well, if you were a consistent 7 across the boards, and this guy is an overweight, unhealthy billionaire who's always stressed and looks ugly, like a Harvey Weinstein type, well then this guy wins, okay? He is what I call an outlier male. And this is, people always ask me, what do I think about like Dan Pena and Gary Vee? And like, I like these guys. I've learned a lot from them, and I think they're great role models, okay? But there comes a point in every man's life that I think he should worry less about financial income. And this is why I tell guys, like, when you're rising up that scale, let's say you're 16 years old, 18, 20, 25, 28, 30, you're like working really hard, you come at the scale, then it speeds up, you get to like 32, 35, whatever. If you get to this point at like 35 years old, and you're saying, hey, by 60, I could be a billionaire. Yeah, but you've got a life to live, right, guys? And I think if you've got 10 million in your bank account at this point, or 9 million, because that would be where it is on the scale, or you're here, and you've got like 30 million in your bank account. For me personally, once you get to like this level as a man, billionaire's obviously going to be better, but you're not really going to notice it too much. So in my opinion, once you get to like that kind of level over here, I think it's time to just slightly switch off, start taking weekends off, focus more on physical fitness, health, focus on holidays, life enjoyment, settling down, starting a family, spending time with the kids, whatever. Like, I would much rather have like, if nothing that I'm planning out goes to plan, because I believe I'm going to end up there just because I'm building a men's streaming platform, and I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because that's my passion, that's what I love, and that usually ends up making, streaming platform, tons of money. It doesn't need that many people signed up for me to get to billionaire level. If I pull off all my goals, it's probably going to get there. I'm passionate about the project. It's what I would love to do every day. It's completely different than chasing the money, so I might end up there. But in my opinion, if I ended up here or here and I ended up having like, let's say, 15 million in my bank account, and I'm in shape, I'm handsome, I have a 9 on my arm, guys, I might be done. I might put my feet up and be like, what the fuck am I chasing billions for? I don't want to be 60 years old and have a heart attack. Or worse, I don't want to be like 47 years old. I heard about a guy today who's 47 that had a heart attack that I know. Fuck that. I don't want to be here at 47 years old having a heart attack. I'd much rather be here at 35, great looking guy, in shape, everything I've ever wanted, baller life, traveling the world, on a yacht going around the Dalmatian coast, than having 10 billion in the bank and being sat in a hospital bed. Okay, so that's just an extra lesson for you. But to bring it back, this is a dangerous scenario. This is a dangerous scenario. So, like I said to you guys earlier, I'll bring it back to where I was a second ago. I just had to explain a few things. I just didn't want to go down that Inception rabbit hole. But as I said, the average woman is a 6. Why is this a problem for men? Well, the average man is a 3. Okay? This is what's scary, guys, and I said I'd bring it back. This is part 1 of the problem. This is part 1. Because I just explained the simp thing to you with this bracket. Okay, and a couple of these guys as well, and they want to date these girls, and these guys aren't ugly guys, they're good looking guys, right? So what's going to happen if this box of simps down here, this 75%, are paying these women, or thirsting over these women, or DMing these women round the fucking clock? Well, a female 6 now believes she's an 8. The majority of women 50, 60 years ago, they knew their level. The majority of women now think they're about 2 points above where they really are. You see this with Kevin Samuels. He's interviewing like an average looking woman, and she's probably a 6 or a 7 at a push, and she's like, I'm a 10. I'm a 10. That's all you ever hear on that show, right? I'm a 10. And he's like, seriously, come on, let's be honest with each other. I love that guy. But that's all you ever hear. I'm a 10. It makes me laugh, right? You could just soundbite that shit all the time. And this is what you're getting with a lot of these women. So the problem is, if most of these women, there's some humble ones, but if most are believing that they're like a 7 or an 8, they're 2 points higher than what they actually are, because they're being simped over so hard by these guys all the time, and they're getting masses of attention. Well, if the average guy is like a 2, a 3, or a 4, and they've never put any work in, well, they're like minimum, because perception is everything. This woman could be a 6, but if she sees herself as how hot she is when she's got makeup on, and the simps that are chasing her, and this is the thing you have to know about women, is without makeup she might be here, with makeup she's there. You better believe she believes she's a 7. Okay, they'll always value themselves at how they look when they're at their best. That's what they perceive themselves as. But if they're perceiving themselves as a 7 or an 8, and you're a 4 or below, well, they're never going to look at you twice. Okay, so why is that a major problem? Well, we're going to have a giant incel population, guys. Because these guys have got a chance. Like anything 5 and above, 5 or a 6 for a man, you've got a chance just because of rarity. You're like top 15% of men. Like that alone is like, well, fuck, somebody's going to have to fuck you. Because, like, you might even get some of these girls just because it's so rare. These girls might end up being older by the time they get with you, but you're going to fuck these girls, you know, because there's no one else to be with. There's just nobody else to be with. Like, these men are in short supply, these girls are going to have to look there. But what's going to happen is if we chop this off and slide it up here, and we chop, let's say, women only date up, so we chop this off and slide it up here, well, now you've got this amount of women. Oh, sorry, I've probably done that wrong, haven't I? You've got this amount of women, 4s and below, who aren't particularly a good-looking bunch, and all of these guys here and below trying to get with them. So you've got 70, 80, 85% of men trying to be with 40% of the women. Well, less. Obviously, it's like 30% of women, which is crazy. You got let me say that again. You got 85% of men trying to be with 30% of women. So it's like every man in this bracket, there's like for every 3 men in this bracket, there's only 1 woman. So these men are competing like fuck, and that is why we're getting a growing incel population, because the average woman believes she's like minimum probably a 5, minimum a 6. You know, and if this is what the minimum a woman values herself at, well, pretty much all of these guys are fucked. Well, not fucked. They can get with these girls, but who wants these girls? And if you don't find these women attractive, you're just doing it, you know, out of kind of pity for yourself. And this is where you see guys that go, I don't like beauty. These women are stuck up. They're rude. They're whatever. And they end up settling with a woman in this bracket, maybe like a 2. Yeah, but she's got a nice personality. It's when you get a midlife crisis and these guys just aren't actually happy. They're just bullshitting everybody, okay? That's how you get that. And it creates a major problem because, like I said, you get this giant incel population that are now settling, and it leads to a lot of male depression. Now, to explain something quickly, why is the average woman a 6 and why is the average man a 3? Well, you know, I probably should have said this earlier, but it's so much to discuss in this video. Well, the average man is a 3 because the average man needs like 10, 15 years of work to actually start improving. So when you're a 18-year-old man, you might be skinny, spotty, awkward, not a lot of experience with women, not very masculine, your frame's small, you don't earn a lot of money, you got 0 assets, like everything that inherently makes a man attractive, you know, maturity, calmness, confidence, you just don't have it yet. So that's why I rank most men at like a 3.3. I'm not saying most men are like ugly or whatever. You know, there might be a real handsome guy who's 18 years old, but he's probably up a push like there or there. Like, just if he's got exceptional good looks, he's still only like a 5 because he's just not established yet. And that's why he ends up being like the king of the simp women. These are the ones that are going to like Justin Bieber, Harry Styles concerts, okay? They're the same as these sort of people, it's just they have a lot more options. But if we take this into consideration again, the average man is like a 3.3, and that's kind of the point that he's going to be at if he doesn't do anything about it. Now, he goes through a 5-year body transformation, he might come up to like a 5. He starts a business and works on it solid for like 8 years and sacrifices, he might come up to like a 6. He does like orthotropics and all the other shit, fashion, whatever, grows his assets. He's coming into this 7, 8 bracket, whatever. If he gives it like another... Here's the thing, right? Stick or twist moment. You get to like 35 years old, whatever. You've got, you know, you've made 2 million. You settle. Yeah, fair enough. Like I said, it could be a good life. You might end up staying here or here. But if you then go for it and you reinvest for just like another 5 years, because you've got money now that can speed it up. You can put less time in and more money in. Well, that's how you end up getting to these brackets. But I'm just saying, in order to rise up to that upper level, you know, and get somewhere around here, it might take a man years and years of work. So the point I'm making is it's not guaranteed for a man to ever make it out of this bracket. And that's why I believe the average man is a 2 to a 4. Because for most men, their highest possible point is just potential. It's never set in stone unless he does something about it. So that is why the average man is there, because he's too lazy to ever get out of these brackets. Doesn't want to do anything about it. That's why the average man sits below here. In his youth, he might end up peaking here, but then he'll drop back in here very quickly in his 30s, because he's going out drinking beer with the boys, but he was naturally good looking and in shape when he was young and athletic. But all that comes crumbling to an end. But the average woman is about a 5 or a 6, like I said, in between this bracket, but she probably sits at about a 6 on average. The reason being, beauty is the only metric that a woman is really judged on. You know, of course we all want women with a great personality. Of course we all want somebody who can like encourage us and whatever. I'm not some mindless beast that's like, I just want a 10. I just want a woman who's a trophy. You know, at the same time, if I found a woman who was like a 7, best personality ever, she encouraged me, made the best of herself, we got on really well, yeah, look, I'd entertain the idea and I'd see where it went. Ideally, I'd want to find that here, which is one of my mentalities. People say, yeah, but the best looking women, they got shit personalities. It's like, no, guys, you need this both mentality over here. The mentality I have is, why not have both? Why not have the best looking girl with the best personality? Right, so you're always going to push as high as you can. But the average woman is a 6 because, like I said, she's valued purely on her beauty. If a woman's a billionaire, nobody really gives two shits. It's like Oprah's a billionaire. Not every guy has her pinned up on their wall, masturbating to her, right? I know that's crude, I apologise, but it just needs to be said. So the average woman is a 6 because if she gets, like, she's born, she goes along life, whatever, she gets, like, this is a fast route now. It's not like the men's one that I showed you earlier. It'd be easier if I could draw it upwards like that as a curve. But yeah, I might do that actually. Let's go from here. But let's say for a woman a 6 is like there. Well, a woman's going through life, whatever, 16 years old. It just skyrockets. Okay, so by 16, she's already like here or here. Right, and I'm not into 16-year-olds. That's not the point I'm making. Let's be grown adults here. The average 16-year-old woman starts to grow hips, boobs, arse, whatever. And by the time she's like 16, 17, 18 years old, she's sitting around that bracket already. Like, her value is already way higher than a guy's. Because this is the difference. A man's potential is just that. It's just potential. It's not guaranteed. A woman is guaranteed to sit at about that level just based on youth and beauty. She's going to get an arse. She's going to get hips. She's going to get tits. She's going to, you know, her lips are going to puff out with estrogen as she gets a little bit older. So she's just naturally going to be around this range here. She's sexually attractive. Okay, that makes her a 6. Oh, she's broke. She's unemployed. She doesn't go to the gym. She's late. Honestly, very few guys give a fuck. Now, if you're trying to find a wife or if you're trying to find a mother for your kids, yeah, it matters. But the majority of women just here naturally. And that's a major problem. Because like I said, most guys underneath this bracket, or to be honest, underneath this bracket, because women only date on their level or above, but at the same time, you can still have a 5, so let's go under this bracket here, because a lot of women are naturally a 5, is what I'm saying. But most of these guys, 75% of men, are too egotistical to ever improve, and they don't want to get in the gym, they don't want to go and train their face, they don't want to go and make money. They're like, why should I, to attract women? Well, you've got a 75% kind of semi-incel population. Now, some of these guys are obviously going to date this big chunk of women down here, the 40%, but it's more of a settling move. They're not the women that they want. Ideally, they want to be dating these women, or they want to go even higher. They just see them as out of reach, and it's a major problem. Like I said, women will always reach this level naturally because they're based on beauty. They will just like, and but don't get me wrong, like, this is going to decline quickly. By the time a woman gets to 35 years old, she might be here. 30, 35 years old, she might be there. She's on par with these men then. Okay, and this is what happens. These guys then get their time in the sun, and they finally marry these women. So when these women fall from grace because they couldn't attract a man in this bracket, or they fucked up and dated every guy they possibly could, and then they were dumping them, I reckon I can get better, like, they found no stability. With age, you know, their youth phase, their beauty phase, they start falling down this bracket. They didn't take care of their body because they didn't need to, because this was given to them naturally. It's not like they were monitoring their diet or like going in the gym like this guy was. He was relentlessly working on himself. Well, as they fall back down, they know they've always got this bracket of men who will capture them. And that's the thing with women, right? I don't hate women. It's quite the opposite. I love women. But what I'm saying is they don't have to work as hard as men. A lot of shit is just given to them. So they have a different mentality to men. People say, oh, why do men run the world? Is there a conspiracy? It's like, no, men have to get better because we have this dynamic where women are just naturally hot. They just get to a certain level. It's just given to them. Oh, you're 18, you're hot now. Here's the keys to a Ferrari. That's basically what it's like doing for a man. Here's the keys to your new 400k house. Like, that's what it would be like for a man here. Okay, it would be the same thing. Or here's your perfect body, you know, a decent face and, you know, keys to a decent house. It would be the same, but this shit for a man takes time. So a man, in order to get up to this level, to fuck the women that he wants to fuck, has to put in the work. A woman doesn't. So she will quite comfortably live an average life, not really care about it, and then suddenly time will slap her in the face, but she doesn't have to worry. Like, if a man drops down to this level or below, or starts at this level and never improves, he's kind of fucked. He's incelling for the rest of his life. If a woman drops down to this level, there is always, probably even these guys, but there is always a guy that will fuck you. You've still got like 95% of the male population, 85% of the male population that will fuck you, even if you drop down below here. And that is why women never have to stress. She could be, with due respect, like, I'm not shitting on women, I'm just saying the honesty here. People, like, please be gentle with me in the comments, especially you feminists. You see what I'm trying to get at. If a woman is obese, if she's not the best looking, if she's unemployed, she's lazy, she doesn't do a lot, she's got 2 existing kids already, you know, she's just low down on this scale, she's probably like here or here. Trust me, these guys are still thirsting over her. And to think that she can have all that is negative, all of that is wrong with her, and she still has like 85% of men that would go to bed with her. I don't blame women for not giving a shit. I don't blame women for not really trying. You know, it's like, that was the same for men. I'm sure there'd be men just rolling around with beer guts, drinking beer every weekend. You know, a lot still do. Wouldn't advise it, because you can have a shit life. Obviously try and rise above this level. But that's what usually happens. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to some images that I've got of a scale of women, so that you can understand what I'm talking about, okay? Because I often say to guys, let's open this up again. I often say to guys, if you can even, like, I encourage you to go right up here to like a 10, right? Everybody should try as hard as they can, or at least like up here. It just gives you a better life. It's an advantage. But if you just make it to this level or this level, right? And like I said, if you're an outlier male, you have 3 different things going on. So if you've got good appearance, you've got success and assets, and you're in great shape. So that, by that I meant face. So it's like the kind of triad, like the kind of dark triad, if you would, like a different version of it. Well, if you've got those 3, well then, yeah, you're an outlier male. So collectively, 7 plus 7 plus 7 is better than, obviously it's 21 out of a potential 30, is better than a guy being a billionaire who's obese and has an ugly face, right? Obviously that's 13. So 21 beats 13. So collectively that would be better. So the scale is different. Now, the first thing I want to say, guys, is this 10 scale, like, I haven't spent a lot of time on this. I didn't want to sit there looking at women. Now, my personal preference is black women, okay? Now, I've tried to move away from that, because what I didn't want to do is just have, like, all these gorgeous black women, and some guys are like, I don't find black women attractive. Because then it would just be, oh, this is my scale. I've tried to go for something that would be, like, semi-universal, most guys would find attractive. I think I've done quite a good job here, but one thing you've got to understand about 9s and 10s is, not, like, your 10 is personal preference. Your 9 is somebody else's 10. You know, 9s and 10s, it's very small to distinguish it. It's very, very hard to distinguish it. But I've tried to do my best. But most 9s could be a 10 based on, you know, what that guy's preference is. If you like blondes and I've put her in the 9 bracket, she's probably, you know, a 10 in your bracket and a 9 in mine. If you don't like brunettes, I do. She's a 10 in my bracket, she's a 9 in yours, okay? So don't get too caught up on that. Look more at, like, the increments. So I think it's quite tough to say this woman isn't a 10. I think, you know, there's only a handful of 10s that you can really say, okay, she's a perfect 10. But I think she's kind of got, like, the face of a model. You could easily see her doing, like, adverts and whatever. She's obviously got, like, giant boobs, thin waist, wide hips, thick thighs, whatever. Like, I think it'd be very hard to say that this woman isn't a 10. Now, her name is Danielle Sanam. Don't be masturbating on my channel, you filthy little whores, you. But, you know, I get so many comments after I do videos like that. Chris, what's the girl's name? So instead of just saying that, instead of having to answer all these comments, it's Danielle Sanam, okay? So, but like I said, don't go and masturbate, okay? But for me, she would be something like a 10. And she's got a great ass as well. And then for a 9, I think it would be something like this. This woman's like black and Asian, massive boobs, gorgeous face, probably not quite as gorgeous as the other woman. Her lower body probably isn't as good as the other woman. She's got like a smaller ass or whatever. It's just not as good. The shape's not as good, right? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not some absolute wild primitive beast. I'm not sat here. This isn't how I judge women. I don't look at a woman and go, no, you're not perfect. I'm sorry, your butt is exactly 1 inch smaller than the other woman's. You're 1% body fat in your arms. No, that will not do for me. Like, obviously, if I met this woman, you think I'm saying no? Like, of course I'm going to be like, yeah, she's beautiful. Like, I'm not saying no to this woman. She makes me look like shit. Right? I understand that. But in terms of this scale, you know, there's one way we're going to have to do it. If that other girl's a 10, this woman has to be a 9. I forgot this woman's name as well. Apologies, guys. The next one, so that would be my 9. This would be my 8. So this woman's name is Sierra Sky. And, you know, typical, like, beautiful blondes, nice body, whatever. But if you were to bring it down, if the other one was a 10, the other one was a 9, this woman kind of has to be an 8. She might be a 9 on your scale, I don't know. But she kind of has to be an 8, okay? So now you see, like, an 8 is still ridiculously hot. She still has millions of followers. Now, if we bring it down again, a lot of guys might be furious about this, but this is that Mexican weather woman. I personally think she's a 7. And she's got a great ass, she goes to the gym, whatnot, but I think she's pushing 30 now, she might be 30 already. She's nice, she's not as nice as the other women in my opinion, like she's still ridiculously hot, no guy's turning that down. But this is what I mean about the scale, it's like guys do this thing where they're like, let's start here, obviously like she's a 10, she's a 10, she's a 10, she's a 10, and it's like in reality only one of them is actually a 10, but this is what guys do. But when you actually work your way back from the actual top level women, you realize that these types of women, like she's going to believe she's a 10, of course she is with the attention she gets, but she is going to be a 7. And once you start realizing that, you go, shit, 6s and 7s are actually gorgeous, I can have one hell of a life. Now if you're, like I said, an outlier male in all areas, look, 8s, 9s and 10s are going to want you as well. But I'm just saying, like, there's nothing wrong with 6s and 7s once you change your scale to how it really looks. Some of these women at this scale are absolutely beautiful. Now, we drop this down again. I personally think Alexis Ren is like a 6. A lot of guys, that's their dream woman. Like, she's got millions of followers. People are going crazy about her. Like, personally, I think she's like a 6. I don't really see what all the fuss is about. Still a beautiful woman. Would I have sex with her? Of course. But in my opinion, she doesn't, like, blow my mind, okay? It just makes me, like... Yeah, I can see 10 of her walking down the street tomorrow. Like, I don't really... She's, like, had her lips done. She dresses up well. Photo shoots are fantastic, so it, like, bumps her up a bit. But in her defense, when she was younger, like, if you go and search pictures of, like, 18, 19 years old, she was obviously way better. And that is what I'm trying to describe to you guys, is the female peak doesn't really last too long. So these women are going to come down that scale pretty quick. It's just kind of... They naturally hit like a 6 or a 7. They'll just get put in that bracket from the outset. Whereas as a man, you have to work your way up. But by the time you get to her level, if you're the same age, you won't want her anymore. You're going to want the young 10 that's coming through. Like, that's what you're going to want, okay? That's part of the male advantage. And then my 5 is like Emma Watson. So guys go crazy about her. They say she's a 10. Like, she is the perfect example, like I said earlier, and Alexis Ren, of like queen of the general publics. She's like queen of the average girls. Like, the average girl on the street would love to look like her. So this is what happens, is you've got 75%, 85% of simps that are going crazy over this woman, and then she ends up getting an amazing career, modeling jobs. She's the hottest woman in the world, mate. She's my dream girl. She's a 10. And she ends up getting all this publicity, whereas in reality, she's just a 5. But when you're the queen of the majority of the people on the street, well, that sways things in your direction. Like, she would be the highest paid OnlyFans person of all time if she decided to make one. And she's not even hot. Like, you're gonna find 50 women on the street that look exactly like her just walking through London every single day. Right? And within the first 30 minutes. It's not hard to find a girl like that. I probably went to school with about 100 girls that look like that. But because it's like the highest possible end of the general public, it's reachable for a lot of these guys. They think that's accomplishable. So when it's accomplishable, it's very addictive. There's a book by a guy called something Systemali. I can't remember his name now, but he wrote a book called Flow. And it's a fantastic book because he talks about the flow state in terms of like how much work you can get done. and he said, or like sports or whatever, but like how passionate you are about your craft. It's a massive lesson for anybody who's like not that motivated right now as well. Is he said that you have to have an equal balance of skill and challenge. So if you're good at something, you're more likely to do it more. But at the same time, if the challenge is no longer there, then you're going to have to increase the difficulty level. If it's too challenging, again, you're going to find it very unenjoyable. So that's why people, when they play sport, they play at their standard, because then it's perfect. They have the right skill level for that standard, and it's just challenging enough where they get a reward from it when something goes well. They do the same in video games. You know, they'll have like an algorithm that increases the difficulty if you're finding it too easy. You know, it might up the level for you. It might, you know, they do it on video games like FIFA, Madden, whatever. They have what's called scripting. So if you end up beating somebody too much, they'll script the game, and then there'll be a deflection and it will go in the bottom corner, and you're like, I've had 80% possession against this guy, it's now 1-1, what the fuck? But that's what they do. They try and equal those difficulty levels. And a lot of guys do it with women, where they're like, okay, I'm roughly at this level, this woman is just a challenge. She's within reach, but she's just challenging enough that if I had her, it would be a massive reward. Like a man who's a 3 or a 4 going after a 10, forget about it. You're not going to get near her. The challenge is too big. You're nowhere near it in terms of like skill level, if you would, which would be like your ranking. But if you're a 3 or a 4 and you see this woman sat at like a 5, you know, at her actual best, when she looks like at her prime with the best makeup she's ever done, at like 21 years old, 22 years old, when women look best to men apparently, yeah, she might have pushed a 6. Well, at that point, guys are like, she's the best looking woman I've ever seen, because the perfect balance of, like I said, where you are and where she is enough of a challenge and is within reach for you. And that's my theory as to why so many of these girls that are like, they're not that great to high-level men, like high-level men look at these women and they're like, she's average at best, and they can fuck them quite easily. Why they look at all these simps and they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why are you simping over this girl? But that's why. Because this woman would be king of the simps and king of the average woman on the street. And when you think about that, yeah, it's a lot of low-level people, or it's people that haven't improved yet, or whatever. It's a lot of simps on both sides of the gender coin. But you've got to add that up. Out of 100% of the population of men, that's like 85% of them. Out of 100% population of women, that's like 60% of them. So you've got something ridiculous, like 150% out of 200%, if that makes sense. It's just ridiculous. It's like out of a total possible 200%, it's like 150% of world's population people are below that and wishing that they were either looking like her or with her. That makes you into a superstar. And that's why girls like this do so well on OnlyFans. That's why girls like this do so well in Hollywood, like Emma Stone and Emma Watson and these girls, right? Because they're at an achievable level where people believe they can reach it as a slight challenge. Like, it's believable that she lives down your road and she would sleep with you. It's believable that she works at your same office as you and she wants you. It's believable that you could get a woman like that at your school, right? So it makes guys into simps in that sense. And then, you know, here's a picture of Alexis Wren, this girl here, with this girl here, the 10 that I decided earlier. And when you like might see Alexis Wren, you might be like, no way, that girl's a 10, or you might think this girl's a 10. But when you actually put these two girls next to each other, you go, yeah, like a 6 versus a 10. It's very identifiable now. It's like when I put Jeremy Meeks next to that guy who I thought was a 6 yesterday, it all becomes clear. You start to realize, you go, damn, like maybe it's not her best picture, but I mean, at the end of the day, she does look like that. But next to each other, you go, okay, yeah, there's levels to this game. I can see what's going on here. I can see why women like this on the right are dating Drake and women like that on the left, you know, without the fame, would be dating a guy who is like a 6 or just a wealthy guy who's not, you know, got anything much else going on. He's like in average shape, whatever. He's a personal trainer making 6 figures per year and he's quite a handsome guy. Okay, he's with a woman like that on the left, but he's never going to get a woman like that on the right. But if he upped it, if he was like a multi-millionaire, a 7+ body, a 7+ face, yeah, he's getting a woman like that on the right. It's the collective that means more. But when, like I said, when you put them next to each other, you go, okay, yeah. Alexis Wren cannot be a 10, as most guys will say. She has to be a 6. She just has to be. Emma Watson has to be a 5. That Sierra Sky, some guy's dream girl, she has to be an 8, because she does not look like that girl on the right. Right? And there's very few women that are on that level on the right. But if you're going to do a scale out of 10, you have to have a top-level woman. You cannot have 10 being the most packed out scale you've ever seen, with 3 billion women in that bracket. Like, it has to be a select group. If you're going to make a 10 bracket, it has to be a select group. Same for the 9, same for the 8, so that you can actually scale it backwards. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to discuss, guys. I hope that's really helped. I hope, the most important thing here, we're judging women. That's not particularly the best part of this video. It had to be done so that you can understand the scale better. But this is what you should take away. This is what you should screenshot. And some guy said yesterday, he was like, obviously people are going to get offended on this. Of course, it's going to hurt your ego if I'm saying you're probably a 3. I was a 2 at one point. I believe I'm roughly like a 6 now. But this guy said yesterday in the comments, he was like, this awareness has shown me where I need to be. It's woken me up. It's given me motivation in order to move forward in my life now. Chris has shown me the light. I realized I was a 3. I'm going to have to put some work in so that I can see my life improve. That's the perfect mentality. That's all I was trying to do. I'm not trying to mock anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody feel like shit. But at the end of the day, guys, that awareness alone, or the awareness of seeing the male to female, let's say differential, if you would, how you now know the average woman is a 6, the average guy is like a 3.3 or a 3, if you would. Well, then you go, shit, I've got some work to do. I can now see why incels exist. I can now see why I'm not getting women. I can now see why men rule the world, because men are forced to. A man who sits on his hands, does nothing, gets lazy and eats shit, he's not going to get anywhere in life, right? He's going to suffer. So with that knowledge in hand, most men go to the drawing board and they come up with something. They get creative. It's like if you're broke, you get creative. You start figuring out new ways to make money. If you're broke, you put water on your cereal, like I used to. And it makes you like, oh shit, yeah, I can save money in that area. I can save money in that area. You become resourceful. It's like people in Africa. The guys in Ghana, right? They have a gym that they've welded themselves and they've made out of like spare parts, right? You become resourceful when you have less. So that's what a lot of guys do. They go, shit, I'm naturally a 3. If I want to actually fuck the girls that I want to fuck, or, have a better life, I'm going to have to do something about it. I'm going to have to stay late at the office. I'm going to have to work hard. I'm going to have to get in shape. That's why in the gym at 5 in the morning, it's all men. It's not a lot of women. That's why on the tube in the morning in London, if I used to go early and go to the gym, it was all men. If I went later, because I had a lie-in, I had a day off, I had a rest day, it was all beautiful women. Right? They don't need to hustle. They don't need to grind. Some do, but they don't need to. They can still have a great life. And this is why for a man, it's so important that you realize where you are so that you can grind up that ladder, okay? Like I looked at a study the other day, and I've spoken about this before on the channel. It said that the way that women and men store body fat. Now, the average man, first place to store it is his stomach, his face, like under his chin, his double chin area. Like nobody wants to store fat there. Do you know what I mean, right? These are all the areas that make you look uglier. Now, the first place that a man loses it is around all of his like other body parts. Like he'll retain onto that belly last. Like that'll be the last thing to go. Like so many guys are like, damn, I got this stubborn belly fat I need to get rid of. Okay, that makes it tough for a man. You have to go through like a 3-4 year body transformation. You have to really grind to look semi-decent. For a woman, the same study said that women are very, very they're highly likely because of childbirth to store fat. The first places they store it is hips, arse, tits, and thighs. Well, I'm sorry, they're like the 4 most attractive areas, right? Like obviously removing face out of the bracket. In terms of body, that makes a woman sexier. So if you and a woman, if she's naturally a 6, you're naturally a 3, and you're just friends, right? And she's like, come out and go drinking with me, it'll be fun. So you two go out and get drunk, you eat shit food, you're like you're simping over her, you're in the friend zone, you're really trying hard to get her, and you're like eating pizzas, Ben and Jerry's, watching TV with her, you're going out drinking alcohol, whatnot, you're not going to the gym, and you're thinking she really likes me for my personality. You're getting worse, she's getting better. She's putting on weight in all the right areas, you're putting on in the wrong areas. Now get this, what's the first place that women lose weight? Well, because of childbirth, they retain it in hips, arse, tits, and thighs. And the first places that women lose body fat is face, arms, back, and calves. Okay, so she's losing it in the perfect areas. That's mental, guys. So all she literally has to do is go out, eat shit, drink shit, have a party lifestyle for 3-4 years. It actually makes her hotter. And then all she has to do is go to the gym, get on the treadmill, do some squats for like 6 months, and she's probably like an 8. Like, life helps women out. Life encourages women to be hot naturally. life doesn't encourage men to be, well, it encourages us to be successful, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder for us to make our transformation. And then by looking at this and having this etched into your head and being like, okay, naturally I'm a 3, I understand that. Naturally women are a 6, I understand that. Life isn't fair, fuck it, doesn't matter. But here's where it is fair, guys, and I showed this to you the other day. Most important part of both of these videos is the majority of men, 75%, are below this level. This is very easy to climb out of with a tiny little bit of work. 1 year body transformation, you're out, okay? And if you can get within this bracket like I am now, like a 6, which is where I roughly believe I am, you might be like, that bold, big-eared idiot. Of course he isn't. Like, there's no way. But I think I probably am, and I'm usually honest with it. So let's say I'm like this area, I can pretty much get women below this bracket, which is like 65% of women. And I can feel this now as well. I can feel women who are 6 and below taking a massive interest in me. And this is why I call it stick or twist. Remember I said to you guys before about stick or twist? It was in the Henry Cavill video as well, where like right here at 6, I've got options of 6s and below. And you guys remember how I deem my 6, okay? My 6 is Alexis Ren. You know, obviously if she wasn't famous, this is what I'm talking about, okay? Now obviously with her being famous it's different. But that's probably my level of a 6, and this is probably my level of a 5 if they weren't famous. Well, that's not a bad life. That's an attractive woman that's like, my ex when I was like 19 years old, I had an ex that looked exactly like her. But she was probably hotter, she probably had like a better ass, but she looked exactly like her. You know, and I had like, if you've got options like that, that's a very good life. So the point I'm making, guys, is at this point I can settle down with a girl that isn't famous, that looks like an Alexis Ren. And believe me, I've got those options. I can think of multiple women that are, you know, are options to me right now. I don't want to go too much into detail because it just sounds arrogant and cocky. But when I'm honest, it explains stuff in, you know, comprehensible terms. And I think it's great for educational purposes and awareness for guys. So that's why I'm willing to do it. But I think I'm around about this level and I can get women on that level. And if they're about that hot, okay, that's hotter than, like I said, 65% of women on planet Earth. That's a good life. That's a good life. I could settle down with an Alexis Ren right now. We could go, like, settle down with her, go and get like a 400k house. You know, we could have a couple kids, get a dog. Like, I don't know why I'm doing it as dots, but you get the idea. They're all like different components. We get a nice car, have family holidays. And anybody below this bracket is like, Chris, you're the man. You got a great life. I wish I had that guy's life. That's 95% of fucking men are thinking I'm the king. That's addictive. But that is why stick or twist. You either stick here or you go on again. Now there's a reason, guys, I've gone 2 years without women. Because I want to make it into this bracket. Because I want access to these women. The upper like 35% of the hottest women. That's the thing, they're so abundant. There's like 35% of women trying to go into a 5% bracket of men, okay? They're massively abundant. There's so many of these women available for these guys. And that's the bracket I want to push into. And that's a lesson for you guys. When you get to this sort of stage where, like, these women, like I said, they're the queens of the general public. Well, when you get here, you're like a king of the general public. People look up to you. 95% of men are starting to look up to you. Well, like I can go and buy a Porsche Panamera now with the body that I have, go and get my SMP, and by fucking Christmas, I'm running around looking like, you know, Conor McGregor. And all the guys underneath this level are like, you're the man, you know, and yeah, it might improve the business, I might get a ton more followers, but I'd rather use that money for a Panamera to break into this bracket and build like the streaming platform and more products and whatever, right? That's the point. That's kind of what I'm trying to tell you guys here. But once you get here, you are like the king of the general public. So you become what these girls are. And it's addictive because, like I said, you can have like the equivalent of a non-famous Alexis Ren on your arm, or a girl, like an Asian version, a black version, a blonde version, right? You can have a redhead version. Like, they're all hot as hell. And that's what I said before, 6s are super hot. They're ridiculously hot. You can have this great life with this beautiful woman. And if that's the level you want to get to, guys, fucking go for it. That's better than 95% of people. I'll fucking applaud you. If that's the limit you want to get to, and you're like, Chris, I don't want to go into my 40s stressing about money and working hard, whatever. I want to get here, have residual income, 5-10 grand per month. I want a woman like that, and I want to fucking retire and live my life and have some kids. Buddy, you're the man. You win, okay? But at the same time, if you want to do your stick or twist, that's where you do it. And you got to avoid women like this. You got to avoid those 5s and 6s because they're addictive. The sex is fantastic. You know, she knows the sex is going to have to be great because she could lose you to a 7 or a competitive 6. So the sex is going to be great. She's going to do a lot for you. She's more beautiful than all of your friends go. You've got a great life. You feel like the man. 95% of men wish they were you. That's a fucking great life. But if you want to go for it, you only get one life, guys. If you really want to push it, you want to go into that upper bracket, that 5%er, that's where I'm headed. If you want to come with me, I'll show you the way. If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement, Male Advantage ebook, or my personal workout and diet plan, all links are in the bio.